Good afternoon, Miami sports fans. Welcome to the Miami Sports Break. I'm David Eversole, joined as always by Jaccare Givens, here to recap a horrible Tuesday in Miami sports. It seems like the narrative around here has changed from the high we were on Saturday after the Dolphins' big come from behind win over the Raiders versus Tuesday, where we had bad performances from both the Hurricanes and the Miami Heat. So we got a lot to talk about today, Jock. What's going on? I know you're anxious to break down a lot of the things that happened for Miami last night in the Cheez-It Bowl. What's going on, my man?
Everything's going good. Yeah, it wasn't the best performance. One thing I do want to give a shout out to N'Kosi Perry, staying ready. Played an excellent game last night. I know he's probably going to be a guy that transfers out, but he should have a pretty good amount of Power 5 offers. Kid can play. He's gotten better.
Yeah, definitely. And he's had a really good attitude the whole time. I know he's been kind of waiting around in the wings for his turn, and it's been an up and down career at the University of Miami for N'Kosi Perry. And it was good to see him kind of take control of the offense and right the ship after the defense really put the team in a bad spot, down 21-0 after the first quarter. It was basically a carbon copy of the North Carolina start, to where Miami just got curb stomped early and took themselves out of the game before the game really even had a chance to develop. So it was
They
very
did.
good.
They
Go
they
ahead.
did they did respond, so we got to give them credit for that.
No, they fought back, and I respect the way they played in the last 45 minutes. But the only problem is it's a 60-minute game, and you can't come out in your last game for a lot of these kids and really just lay an egg from the jump. It was a terrible mental performance. There were so many mental breakdowns on both sides of the ball. The defense in particular is something we're going to really harp on, because on all levels they were bad. You're missing Jalen Phillips out there, obviously. There was no pass rush whatsoever. The kid from Oklahoma State Sanders just did whatever he wanted against the Miami secondary. Threw for over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. Defense didn't force any turnovers. It was just
They
a bad game for Blake Baker and the whole defense. So you think it was Baker's last game on the sidelines at the University of Miami?
Well, This is gonna put the test whether the friendship of Manny Diaz and Baker matters to him or does his job matter. Obviously, the defense hasn't been good since Baker took over. Um, they had their performances here and there, but let's just be honest. Consistently, have they been good? No. I just want to see them move on from Baker. It's a lot of good guys out there. I think Kevin Steele should be a guy from Auburn who should be in that. Even Bo Pelini. I like Bo Pelini. I know he had a not so good year at LSU, but LSU didn't have a good year all around. So I think Bo Pelini would be a nice guy. And obviously the best choice and best hire is Charlie Strong. If you can go poach him, get him back, that's a great fit for him. Obviously, I honestly think he should have been the head coach of Miami that first time. I think when they hired Al Golden, I want to say they should have hired Charlie Strong. He got good connections in the Miami area, has recruited the Miami area very well, very good recruiter. So I just think that would be the best choice. But Baker it's not that he's not good, because he was good at La Tech. He did have some decent players over there, but hey, I think at Miami we all have a expectation of what it should be, and the defense hasn't looked good all season. Like, they had their moments. I just think their offense was just so good. It was winning in spite of the bad defense, but it eventually catches up to you. Not even like the secondary play has been terrible all season, especially at the cornerback position. I told people all year that Corey Couch was going to be the best player. I predicted that on the six ring Kings show preseason that he was going to be a starter. Um, like I said, DJ Ivy just has not improved, and this just goes back to the guys. Period. The guys in that 2016 or 2017 class, I don't know what year Pope them is. I think they're juniors, so that's what, 2017.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah,
20 that 2017 class is not good. Pope, Wiggins, Ivy. Ivy is 2016 though, but they just look the same. Like, they look like how they came out of high school. It's no development. That's half and half. That's coaching, but that's also on them. Those kids have to put in extra work, and you can tell when the guy's not putting in extra work. And you can tell when a guy's not focused. I will give them this. It is hard to play at Miami when you're from Miami because there's a lot of pressure on you. You got all the outside noise, all the other community people depending on you and stuff like that. So I will give them that. But um, for you to look the same, that's just not good. And it's indicative of who you are as a person. Are you trying to get better? And then it's also the coaching staff. What have they done to help you?
Right. And you look at the secondary and you continue to see the same mistakes over and over. They don't turn around, they don't find the ball. Jaccare, obviously, you played the position at the D1 level. You know what it takes to win out there one-on-one when you're out on an island. What's going on with these guys that they keep just doing the same thing? Is it bad technique? Are they just out of
Well,
position? Is it the scheme? What's going
nah,
on, particularly in the secondary? Is it a lack of a pass rush? Is it all
no,
these
you can't.
factors kind of?
The pass rush can't be brought up because Miami's pass rush has been disruptive all season. I just think it's technique. Anytime guys are having technical issues, it's gonna translate into something big happening. So if you're not winning at the line, then you get in phase. Obviously, not finding the football. It's technique. I don't know if Mike Rump is a good corners coach. I don't, because the guys he's produced has not been good. Al Blade showed promise, but his play went down this season. Corey Couch looks like he looks like he's the best corner on the team, which he is. He has
Mhm.
pretty good technique, but he has lapses at times too, and
Sure.
that's coaching in them. So it's on both. I just think Miami needs an overhaul of the defensive staff in general, just because it's not working. That Baker staff is not working. I'm not a proponent of getting guys fired, but anytime the technique is an issue, and it's been an issue all season. Like they've given up a lot of big plays. Um, it's bad, and I'm not, like I said. Was I the best player when I played? No, but hey, I can teach cornerbacks and I can teach the defensive back position. Motor Mara, I learned from one of the best coaches, Dave Campo, and what they're getting taught, I don't see that as a thing. Those guys need to first go find a wizard because they need to look themselves in the mirror and say, "Hey, do I need to get better? Need to do to get better?" Because if the same thing keeps happening to you, I know you're watching film because that's regardless of the coach. The coaches are probably working 18-hour days, so I know this guy has pride, Mike Rump. He has to have pride, and I know he's pointing this out. So at some point, it is coaching, but at some point, it is the player as well. Like that play they had where they left the guy uncovered on, I think it was 3rd and 1. That
Mhm.
can't happen. That can't happen. So it was overall bad for the defense. And like I said, the defense needs an overhaul. And I've been saying this since day one. Blake Baker is not the guy. Uh, they have to get better. Miami has to recruit better at the defensive back position in particular. I think that's going to change with James Williams this upcoming year. But I still think he's going to be a linebacker as well. But that's just my
Yeah,
opinion.
he's a hybrid. He's in between, and just you don't see that answer coming around the corner. Obviously, we've talked at length about the 2021 class and the lack of cornerbacks in that group. So it's going to be interesting to see what Manny Diaz does in this offseason, if he's going to separate his relationship with Baker for the betterment of himself and for the team. Because if you're being weighed down by other coaches and you're the CEO of the football team, you've got to make some tough decisions and you've got to take loyalty out of it if you're going to be successful. If he's not doing the job, if he's your friend or not, you've got to look somewhere else. And
Because the pressure's on him at this point, if you think
mhm,
about it. Because let's look at it. De'Aaron King returning. Hopefully, the injury's not too bad. It did look kind of bad in general. It looked like it's a non-contact injury.
non-contact is never good. Yeah,
So so
buckled.
we're hoping for the best. But hey, this guy with King returning and the class that they have coming in, there's going to be high expectations in Miami. And I do feel like a lot of those guys are going to return in 2021 just to run it back, try to win a national title when the
Mhm.
field is going to be wide open. Even though I still think they're going to probably be the second or third best team in the ACC. De'Aaron King back is the second best quarterback in the ACC. So, you're going to have a chance, but at the same time, it's still some things that we need to see improving. We talk about the defensive back position a lot, but the receiver position has been terrible all season.
Yeah.
And I'm a
Other than
fan
Mike
of
Harley. who
Other
had
than
a
Mike
pretty good
Harley.
game again, and he really stepped up in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
He seems to be the only one that kind of owned it. Like, hey, we weren't focused. We need to reset. We need to go out and put in the extra work. But he seems to be the only one who got that memo. Wiggins is terrible. Pope is not good. They're not good players.
Yeah, and that comes to development. And if you watch those guys at South Ridge, they weren't consistent then. Um, you just have to and this is the thing when it comes to recruiting. You have to watch the film of these guys. I know the highlights look all great and everything, but when you're recruiting a receiver, if he's not creating separation with route running, he's gonna have issues at the next level because the players get better. So
Right.
in
And
high
the
school,
speed differences obviously start to shrink as you go up in level.
yeah.
And guys that might win at the high school level against, you got somebody like me out there covering them. And then you go to the college level and you've got to have,
You
your
got
top.
NFL. You got other NFL guys out there who have aspirations as well, and
Correct.
technique wins everything. And people can say what they want. I was arguing with a guy on Twitter the other day. Oh, I don't know what I'm talking about with Pope. His route running is bad. Wiggins route running is bad. These guys are not good route runners. That's why I told him Romello Brinson is going to be a day one starter when he gets there. Guy has good routes. He's creating separations with routes. That wins at every level. It's not just translating. Look at Calvin Ridley out of high school. What was he creating separation with? Judy creating separation with routes. And that translates. When you run good routes, it translates to every level you go to. They looking for guys with route. Obviously, we love the guys with speed, but you're looking for guys who are good route runners. That's what wins in the NFL. You see it with the Miami Dolphins. Those guys are not particularly great route runners, so their separation is bad. And that's just what it is. The top 5 receivers in the league, what stands out the most about them? Route running.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Other
what
than maybe Hill, who's just so explosive.
no. But Hill
He's a
still
great
has
route runner as well.
he has
Especially in space.
yeah. And also, I want to bring up a point. Wiggins, if you listen, son, you should move the defensive back. I think that would be a better position for you just because of your length, your size. You got great speed. And I just think you'll be a better DB than receiver. I think that would fix Miami's need because the kid has the talent. He has the speed, the length, and the size. So I think if he gets coached up properly and everything works out, he can go for a 3rd round pick or a 3rd, 4th round guy because I think he's 6'2", long arms, long lanky guy, and he can develop into something. Right now, as a receiver, he's gonna be 6th round to undrafted, just because he's not having that great of a year. But he still has time to develop. Some guys catch on late, but those guys need to bunker down. Pope, Wiggins, especially, need to bunker down, and they have to work harder. That's just in general. Those guys are not working hard, but this goes back to Miami's recruiting. Those guys were inconsistent in high school, so it's not going to change in college unless you put a culture around them. And Miami didn't have a culture when they first went there.
Yeah, they need to develop, I think, the talent a little bit better. And you got to throw out the 4 or 5. The star ratings, I think, kind of are a little bit misleading because you've got to really break down the individual, his work ethic, his commitment to everything like that. And that's what separates the good players from the great players, I think, when talent is pretty equal, when the physical parts of the game are pretty equal. It comes down to the attention to detail, the focus, the repetitions, and I just don't see it from anybody in the wide receiver group other than Mike Harley. And it's a real shame. And what disappointed me in this game was that the young guys didn't get a chance to run after Wiggins and Pope are just leaving the ball on the turf out there. You should have had guys coming off the bench to relieve them.
They cost Miami the game. It not cost it because obviously you gave up a 21-point lead. I mean, you gave up 21 points in the first quarter. But those guys catch those passes, Miami wins by 2 touchdowns at least.
The defense they kept allowing, even though they weren't allowing a lot of points, they kept allowing drives, and they were able to consistently move the football. The running defense actually wasn't that bad, but the secondary and the tackling on the 2nd and 3rd levels is just terrible. I think it's a combination of scheme, it's a combination of eye discipline, and it's lack of focus in the big games over and over from this Manny Diaz-led team, which is a culture of failure. you can't end the season consistently by just getting housed in your last two games over and over. Eventually, it's going to catch up to you. And if the Miami Hurricanes are dedicated to winning, and I want to sidebar for a second because our own Vishnu wrote a great article on 5reasonsports.com.
It was amazing. Great
Yeah.
article, Vish.
He puts things into perspective so succinctly because he follows the program so closely, obviously. And just you can just see that culture of repetition from the Al Goldens to the nothing really changes. There's a lack of accountability from the athletic department. And you see that result kind of just be accepted. The mediocrity, whereas now Miami hasn't lost fewer than 3 games in a season in 17 years. Miami has lost at least 3 games every year for the last 17 years. And that's just unacceptable for a program with the tradition and the caliber of Miami with the talent. And you look at the recruiting classes on paper, obviously, whether it translates or not on Saturday is a different story.
Miami's struggling, just like I said. I had an argument with one of the coaches on my staff, I coach at, and we were talking about it. And we are talking about recruiting and, whatever. And I told him, you can recruit the worst guys or the lower level guys, but if you develop them, you can turn them into players. Miami hasn't developed. Like let's think about the guys who they've had that's been developed, like developed into we're used to seeing guys developing into first round picks.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're developing guys 4th, 5th round picks, undrafted guys like Phillips. We can take credit for developing him, but he was the number 1 rated player in the country coming out of high school.
Talent already with Phillips.
Yeah, so. And he had his moments. Gregory Rousseau, like we can see him as another one when you develop, but did you really develop him? Because he has a lot of raw talent. 6'7", former wide receiver. Obviously, he's more athletic than a lot of guys. He doesn't really win with pass rush moves. He's mostly a speed guy. He's gonna struggle a little bit in the NFL as well, just because he doesn't win with pass rush moves. And that's a problem. Yeah. So once you get to that level, you have to win with moves. But we have that's the only guys we can really say like, hey, we developed those guys. And look at Shaq Quarterman. Quarterman as a freshman was talking about being a top 10 pick. By the time he finished, that first round conversation was gone. Mm-hmm. Like we haven't heard anything. So really, Miami has to. They're doing a good job recruiting. You have to develop recruits. Miami's best players this year did not come from that program.
Yeah, and that's a real indictment, I think, on just the culture here. They're a little bit more worried about social media. I mean, Ivy was on Twitter like a half hour after the game already saying, all kinds of, defending himself. You either love me or hate me or whatever. These guys need to get them off of social media on game day. I mean, their head's just not in the game. And that comes down to Manny Diaz, bottom line, and all the coaching staff.
Do you feel like Manny on the hot seat? Would you fire him? Because it is some interesting names out there. You got Gus Malzahn out there, who I believe in as a coach, period. I think he's a great coach. Never had a bad defense at Auburn.
And he develops players too.
He develops guys. So I think is that a guy, but Manny, this is Manny. 2021 is his year.
Make or break. It's do or die. And Baker has to go. And I think Rumph maybe has to go as well. You've seen a lackluster performance not only from the secondary on a game day basis, but on a recruiting basis as well. Yeah. We're losing out on those top flight talents, and you can't have that against all the skill players that you're going to play against in the ACC. And then you look at your first game next year. With the result in the Cheez-It Bowl to an Oklahoma State team, how are you even going to play on the same field as Alabama to open the next season? I mean, that could open as a 3-touchdown line easy.
Yeah, obviously, Miami. Alabama's going to be prepared to play, so we're not going to take that. But do they need? Yes, they have to get better. I do want to sidebar from that. Mike Tannenbaum made an interesting comment. He was like, "Oh, if Justin Fields has a good next 2 games, he'll be an option for the Jets in Miami." I want to see, how do you feel about all this noise that you've heard over the last week about Tua after he got pulled in the game against the Raiders? How are you feeling about that?
Listen, I trust Brian Flores, trust the process, if you will, because week to week, everything is different. It's 16 individual events in a season. And within each individual game, obviously, one play matters and one quarter matters, one drive matters. He's pushing the right buttons. You've seen a lot of these analogies on social media to the closer in baseball. The starters out there struggling. He gets you in a competitive situation. You're not out of the game yet, but you're not seeing him get you to the finish line. You hook him and you bring out Fitzpatrick to give you that spark, which is exactly what happened. And they scored what, 3 times in a row in the fourth quarter, at the end of the fourth quarter. So I got no problem with it. Tua is your starter. Tua is the future of your franchise, and you've got to roll with that. But you're 10-5 on the precipice going to playoffs if you beat Buffalo.
And not to add, you have a lot of ammunition, draft capital that you have. You have free agents. You have the money to bring in. I just think these guys have to be patient, number one. Number two, you have to give Tua a full 16 games. You're talking about a guy who spent this offseason rehabbing.
Right.
Offensive
People forget that he had a very gruesome injury to end his college career.
Offensive coordinator does not trust him, so they don't give him a fair chance.
And he doesn't trust the skill players either. You see, he hesitates.
Yeah,
limited right away. If he's not Alabama open like everybody's been saying,
no,
which
it's not that.
They don't win one-on-one though. He doesn't want the ball, and they're not open to him.
But listen, the only guy that you have that's been getting open consistently is Mike Gesicki. Only guy when you see him throw the ball,
he wins one-on-one because he has the tools.
But Tua's giving him a chance. Think about all the throws he throw the ball to Gesicki.
Jakeem Grant gets open, but we won't talk about what happens after the ball gets to him. But he gets open.
I think that what Dolphin fans have to understand is it's a process. I know you've seen the success of Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert is the best quarterback in the draft. He's the most talented guy.
Physically,
he pushes the ball downfield. So I just have a question. Would you, as a fan, Dolphin fans, this is a question for you guys. Would you guys rather have Herbert and his record at, I think they were 4-11 or something like that? Or would you rather be 10-5 on the cusp of the playoffs? Tua is great. He doesn't turn the football over. And you have the money to surround him with weapons next season. You're going to have a draft to surround. We're going to draft offensive players to surround him with the weapons he needs. And then we judge him. Let's judge him after that. 16 games. Let's give him a full 16 games. And to be honest, this is like a preseason for him, if we're being honest. We didn't have a preseason this year. He's working his way into things. But the thing about the kid, he responds. He got benched in Denver, came back the next 2 weeks with 2 wonderful games. And I think he's going to respond this week. I think he's going to go up to Buffalo and win the game.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to see the best of Tua to kind of capture the big moment there because he always rises to the moment. Whereas I don't see that from Herbert. Yeah, he had a nice comeback drive a couple of weeks ago on primetime, but I don't know if he elevates the team around him. And you look at his supporting cast, it's obviously much better. Austin Eckler is head and shoulders above any running back that Miami has, and Keenan Allen is head and shoulders above any wide receiver that Miami has.
Mike Williams is even better than the guys we have. So.
I mean, and stop comparing Tua to Herbert. We need to start comparing Tua to his predecessors that have worn the aqua and orange and white of the Miami Dolphins. Because if you look at this franchise since Dan Marino retired in 1999, other than Jay Fiedler and one good season out of Chad Pennington, and then you saw some flashes from Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback position for 2 decades has been a question mark in Miami. And after 15 games in his rookie season, your quarterback coming off a major injury to end his college career has your team 10-5 with no offensive weapons.
6-2 as a starter.
Yep, 3 rookies on the offensive line, and a play caller that may be limiting him a little bit, and his own limitations and as far as the grasp of the offense with a shortened offseason program and everything else, the team is 10-5. And you see these analogies, and Dan Marino is the greatest Dolphin to ever play. Okay, I'm just going to say that right now. But you look at Justin Herbert, he has all the physical things, but is he going to be a winner? But is Tua going to be your Joe Montana? Is Tua going to be the guy who's maybe not the most physically gifted,
But he's a
athletic,
winner.
but all the guy does is win. So will you take
It's
that? Will you take a career over Marino or Joe Montana?
It's like the Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers discussion. Rodgers is head and shoulders probably the best thrower of football we ever seen. But hey, he's only won one Super Bowl compared to a guy who won 6. So we're gonna see going forward. But I think Miami's in a good position. I think Tua I just think he needs to grasp the NFL. What Kurt Warner was saying was spot on. He has to understand what NFL Open is, because the players are better. It was not his weapons that was limited. Like, oh, that was helping him that much, and blah blah. Because those same guys were putting up, like those same guys before Alabama had a real quarterback. Those guys were struggling. Mac Jones, he has his struggles as well. So I don't see what they're saying. Oh no, Tua made that offense like a juggernaut. They were putting 40 points up on people in a quarter, 2 quarters, just driving up and down the field. The guy on one leg threw for 500 yards, 46 points against LSU. Really should have won that game, but Judy had his bad game. He dropped 2 touchdown passes. So you guys gotta calm down and give that kid some time and just let him be him.
Line too. Before the injury, before the emergence of Joe Burrow, Tua was up by a pretty wide margin. I think
the number 1 pick.
Overall pick in the draft.
But and people still even said if he was healthy, he was going to be the number 1 guy.
Yeah. Still, so even the great season that Burrow had, and listen, there could be more than one good quarterback in a class.
In a giraffe class,
yes. There's more than one good quarterback in our division. I mean, look at the emergence of Josh Allen. The development of Josh Allen from season 1 to now has been incredible.
Yeah,
and big credit to Buffalo's coaching staff. That's
a
great
and their front office, because they went ahead and got him what he needed, a number 1 guy who he can depend on.
They went out and got Diggs, and that's made all the difference. You can really see Josh Allen take that next step because he knows I could just throw it up there to Diggs, and he could throw the 50-50 ball. Whereas other than Devontae Parker in short yardage situations, you don't have that one-on-one guy without Williams in there.
Or he can trust that Diggs will be open, or he can throw him open or stuff like that.
He's a good route.
Number 1 receiver matters.
It does. More than a number 1 running back or anything else.
You look at Tom Brady, who's we all agree he's the greatest quarterback of all time. He looked like a shell of himself with that mess he had up there with the Patriots. He goes to the Buccaneers. Yes, they have their up and downs, but he still looks pretty good.
Yeah, they let him play out the first time in I think like 12 years. So you can't really discount the lack of weapons into his arsenal. So before we wrap up here, we want to just switch gears real quick to the Miami Heat. I know a lot of you on the network obviously follow the network for the Heat coverage, and that was a tough game last night for the Heat. 144 to 97. They lost to Milwaukee. That was a rough performance from the Heat, but it's just one game. No Jimmy Butler. I don't think it's time to panic.
We can't even look at that game last night just because they hit 29 3-pointers.
NBA record, 29 3-pointers. The defense is bad, and and I want to know, like, the Mo Harkless experiment so far hasn't looked that great. And where's KZ? I think that's the big question. A lot of people ask, what's going on with KZ? But I think the emergence of Precious has really been the bright spot of the early season so far.
I mean, Miami's 1 and 2. They're all right. I think Milwaukee was really, really like wanting to play that game. I think Milwaukee's been waiting to play Miami for the longest. And they hit 29 3-pointers. I don't give a damn how good your team is. The team hit 29 threes, they're going to win the game. It's just what it is. Miami plays them again tonight. I think we'll see a win by Miami. I think Miami comes out and play way harder than they did yesterday. Miami's going to probably beat the Bucks tonight. It'll be a way closer game.
It'll definitely be a
Uh,
closer game. I mean, it's hard to
I
lose by
think
47 on back-to-back nights.
and I also want to say this. I do think that Miami is limiting Tyler Hero with this point guard experiment.
Yeah.
I think he needs to move to off the ball, coming off
Mhm.
screens, stuff like that. And that's why I said Lonzo Ball. I know a lot of people are gonna balk at this, but Lonzo Ball would be a nice fit for the
Mhm.
Miami. He's not really a scorer like that, but Miami needs somebody who can set up the offense. We don't
A
really have a true
facilitator.
point. We don't have a really true point guard out there that's helping us. Most times you got to think about it. Like we got Jimmy Butler running the
Yeah,
point.
Goran, but obviously
But
he
Goran's a scorer. He's a scorer. He's
yeah.
a score. He's a scorer first. But I really want to see that facilitator, that help. We look at in the playoffs against the Lakers. Rondo and LeBron were
Mhm.
facilitating the basketball a lot, and the guys are getting easier shots. And you would just like to see Bam with a true point,
Yeah.
obviously running pick and roll with him and stuff like that. So I really would like to Miami to get a true point guard. Obviously, if they can acquire James Harden, which I'm still on the train to do,
Yeah.
I don't really see Tyler Hero ever becoming on the level of James Harden. So I really think that's a better trade for Miami. If Miami can get James Harden for Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, and
Can't give up Robinson though. You can't give up all your shooting.
I would give up Robinson too, just because James Harden puts you overboard, and Miami can develop another Duncan Robinson. Like he's a great shooter, but we can develop that. You can develop good
True
shooters.
season. Max Drew season. There you go.
Yeah, so I really think Miami should try to pursue the trade, but and
I
it's
like
not
Alonzo
help.
Ball fit, by the way. I really like that. He's also a good point of attack defender as well. He's got long arms. He's got good
Yeah,
instincts on defense.
great defender, and
He's
and you
strong.
have to
He's
look
very strong.
and you have to look at it. Those guys who come to Miami, DeLonzo Ball. Look at those guys who come; they get developed. They
He'll be a
they
piece.
they become better players. So
Yeah,
I
the
think you
Miami Heat are
can.
the anti-Hurricanes of player development.
Yeah, I think you can get him on a nice 3-year deal, nice money deal. Obviously, because his Giannis experiment is we don't have a chance with
We're
him.
not getting, and we're not. I don't
Obviously,
think we're getting hard either. Honestly,
yeah.
I just don't feel like it's just. I think they're not. They're gonna want too much.
Yeah, and or you can, always go ahead and Kawhi Leonard would be out there, but those guys that I think Kawhi's gonna stay in LA. But Lonzo Ball would be a nice fit, and another guy as well that I think would be another great fit to go at the Precious and Bam thing is Marcus Chris, uh, athletic guy because he can play the 3 or the 4, shoot the ball pretty well. So I just think Lonzo Ball would be a great fit for them next season. They just need a true point guard, or you never know. You can get Swiper the Fox, De'Aaron Fox, if you do them
Wow, yeah.
as a trade.
Donovan Mitchell, somebody like that. But I think the Heat are going to be fine. It's a short off season, obviously, with everything, and they're just jumping right back into action after not much time to really recuperate after a really long playoff run in the bubble. So I think it's definitely
Yeah,
really.
all those teams who played in the bubble, late into the bubble, into the playoffs, are really
Yeah.
sluggish right now. Look at the Raptors. I think they're 0-3 right now. So you just have to be patient with those guys. I don't think Miami's okay. Miami is gonna win tonight, and everything will be back cool. I know the 47-point loss, but the Tyler Hero point guard experiment has to start because I think we're taking away from his game.
Yeah, and he's asked to do, I think, a little bit too much defensively as well. So I want to see some, hopefully, maybe get some KZ minutes on this back to back. Maybe this is finally the time where he sort of gets his chance in the rotation a little bit. Maybe on the second night of a back to back without Jimmy Butler in the lineup. So it's going to be interesting to see what Spo's adjustments are tonight. I definitely expect a much better energy performance, and I expect a more aggressive Bam for sure. I know he's been getting a lot of heat on social for being a little bit passive, and you just want to see him dictate to the opposition a little bit more. And I want to see a better defensive effort. They can't give up 147 points again. So,
I don't think they're gonna give up a 20.
no.
They're not gonna make 29 threes again. One quick thing, Dave. Who do you got winning on Sunday? Buffalo or Miami?
I think Miami's going to win. I think the weather's not going to be terrible. I think Buffalo's got some weaknesses on defense, other than your guy Tre'Davious White in the secondary. I think there's some matchups that we can exploit there.
And I think they're gonna try to rest their guys because I think Miami will be the 5th seed right now. If they win on Sunday, it'll be 5th seed. That is a great matchup with them and the Titans in the first round. Or the Colts.
That'd be exciting. I think a couple of those matchups would be favorable for the Dolphins. So yeah, I'm gonna pick a lower scoring game. I think the Dolphins pull it out, 27-24.
I got Miami winning 27. No. I want to say Miami wins, but I think Buffalo's going to rest their guys just because the Steelers are kind of conceded that they're going to play the Ravens in the first round. So I think Miami wins again 28-24. I'll go ahead and piggyback off you. 28-24 Miami.
Well, we'll take it any way we can get it. So if they win, they're in. That's the bottom line. You don't have to scoreboard watch if you just take care of business. So we're going to know by about 4:30 on Sunday whether the Miami Dolphins are going to be in the playoff or not. So want to thank everybody for joining us today on the Miami Sports Break. And, of course, thank you, Jaccare, for taking some time to catch up on everything on sports. And make sure to check back on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel tonight. We'll have pregame and postgame coverage of the Heat and Bucks. And we'll catch up with you guys probably after the new year. Thanks so much for watching.